Today I'm in Birmingham for a street photo walk using my new 35mm equivalent lens for some wide-angle street photography. I'll get to why I've fallen in love with this focal length a bit later on in the video, but for now I just got off the train and straight away noticed this skylight with people walking overhead, and though it's not really my usual kind of style, I captured some crisp, minimalist images, which was a nice surprise and a great start to the day. Today's gear is the Fuji X-E4 and the 23mm f2 lens. Now I start off the day just having a little wander around, just taking random shots of things that interest me to warm up, and one of the first scenes I came across that I found quite eye-catching was this reflection on the window. So if you follow this channel regularly, you'll know that I love using reflections, and while that's not the main goal of the images I wanted to take on this street photography walk, it was still a nice little image to capture at the beginning of the day. Next, I made my way down into one of the market areas of the city to really start practicing with the wider focal length. I stopped off here for a shot first as I was attracted to the colour of this food truck on the left and a silver pole on the right. I wanted to frame up someone in the space between them, and once the right person walked through, I snapped off the shot. Markets are a great place to do street photography. You can play the tourist card, and there are usually lots of nice interactions happening with people going about their daily life. This is where I really started to enjoy the wider lens and practice getting up closer to people and being a bit bolder with my street photography. In these shots, I'm trying to incorporate the environment on the wider lens to tell more of a story and also to include more in the frame. Definitely very difficult to do, and it's going to take a lot of work, practice and learning curve, but that's what I find so addicting to street photography. Just when you think you've got it figured out, you want to try something new, and it's like being a beginner again. The light was a bit hit and miss, but I was really enjoying the colours and textures of the market. Walking the streets among people going about their lives really makes me feel connected to the world, and having a camera forces you to really observe what's happening and take it all in. Even when I don't get anything great, I still adore the process of street photography. I headed out of the market to the famous outside of the bullring, which is really quite striking, and I thought would make for the perfect backdrop for some more minimalist kind of images. So I just had a wander around here for a while, really just trying to isolate one figure in front of the towering expanse of this interesting backdrop. This lady came out for a cigarette and she made for the perfect subject to anchor the image. Sometimes when I'm at a loss for what to shoot or there aren't many people around, I just follow the light or try and find some interesting shapes, texture, contrast. In this case, the reflected light was beautiful in this location, and I used the man for the focal point in the centre of the frame, again to add an anchor to the shot, bringing it all together. At this point in the day, the light went completely and I walked around for literally hours getting absolutely nothing. It's important to note that with street photography, I often spend hours or days walking the streets to come away with absolutely nothing. But the aim of the game is patience, resilience and optimism to go out time and again. Because when you do go out and you do get that shot that you're really happy with, there's no other feeling like it in my opinion. So one of the main reasons I picked up this lens was to start including more in my frames, as I've touched on already. I'll put up some of my work from my archives on screen now, and a lot of my focus in the past has been on really stripped back graphical images, often only showing one person in the frame. I also focus a lot on abstraction. I'm really happy with this work, don't get me wrong, and I'm not going to stop taking photos like this, but I really wanted to push myself to try a new direction to test my creativity and keep things fresh. I wanted to shift my focus more towards the people on the street, their emotions, details, interactions, and get a bit closer, be a bit bolder, and really fill the frame with more subjects but keeping them balanced. Like I've sort of touched on already, I know it's going to take a lot of trial and error, so bear with me in these videos while I explore different kinds of street photography, but I'm excited to see how my style develops and the kind of photos I can capture over time. This famous sculpture in the centre of the city was where I really started to experiment with including more in the frame. Like always, it was a question of waiting and observing for the right moment, but in this case trying to capture a shot with a frame full of subjects, while still trying to keep them balanced and interesting. Very tricky, but so much fun. I'll put up some of my favourites from this location now. I always like the idea of making photographs that when a viewer looks at them, they kind of don't really know what's going on, and it takes them a minute just to figure out what they're looking at. I think that can be quite powerful. So here you can't quite see, but out of frame at the top, there's a mirrored surface on the overhang. And I just use that for some reflection shots, trying to capture some people walking through that I think are a bit bizarre, but also quite graphical and interesting to look at. As I predominantly shoot in colour, one of the things that attracts me most on the street is bright, bold colours, especially complementary colours or colour matching or primary colours, things like that. In this case, I liked the background and the flowers that were both the same colour and was just really waiting for the right subject to fill the frame. At this point in the day, the light came out a bit better for a spell, so that was really exciting. I love it when there's nice, harsh sunlight on the street because you can use it to build compositions around. So this location, I spent a bit of time working it, walking around it, trying to wait to see if people came through and interacted with it in an interesting way. I didn't really come away with anything too special, but shooting street when the sun's out, you can't really get much better than that. Next up was this location that I really loved. The bright primary colours and the light was on point, and I just needed to wait for a while to see if anyone came along to pull the scene together. I really wanted to include more people in the frame here, but there wasn't much foot traffic. So in the end I couldn't really fill the frame with more people, but I did capture a couple of more simple stripped back shots that I think are really striking. I worked a reflection into one of the images as well from the building I was next to, which just added a little bit more dimension to the image. When there's great light, street photography just becomes so much easier, and even though I know I've gone on about filling the frame a bit more using a wider lens in this video, this particular shot was actually one of my favourites from the day because I just adored the light, the way it was falling on this man's shoulders and his head, and a simple black and white crop for me makes a really bold, minimalist but striking image. That was unexpected, but I'm really happy with. Now this is quite an obvious photo to take, but for me I think trying to include humour in street photography is really powerful, though really difficult. So any chance I get to try and capture an image that's even slightly funny or a little bit witty, I jump at the chance for that. I'd love to know what you think of the images in this video, so please use the comments for that. Or if you have any questions for me about street photography or what kind of focal length you like to use in your photography, let me know because I'm really interested to find out other people's opinions for that kind of stuff. As the light was starting to fade, I decided to experiment a bit with shutter speed and motion blur. The idea was to find a still subject with lots of people moving around them and then to use a slower shutter speed to capture the motion, but fast enough shutter speed that the subject and background was still sharp and not blurry from my wobbly hands. And I think the result is really effective. I carried this idea through to a different location, and annoyingly I didn't capture it on the GoPro, but I did catch one of my favourite shots of the day with this technique. This lady with a bouquet of flowers talking to a man framed by moving subjects. I think there's a really strong narrative here, and I really love to try and capture images with a story, so that really works for me. I ended the day killing a bit of time for my train outside Birmingham station, which is really beautiful and covered in mirrors. So I definitely got my fix of abstraction for the day. I spent a bit of time just walking around and shooting different angles, seeing how the frames looked with varying degrees of foot traffic, and one or two of these shots I think are really successful. I find abstraction a really powerful tool in street photography and to use for visual storytelling. You can use abstraction to build layers and add mystery to your photos as well. As always, a massive thank you for watching. As I said earlier, if you enjoyed the photos or you have any questions, just pop them in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.